Hi guys, I'm Khye. Welcome to my first video ever on Lightroom tutorials. I've never done any of such tutorials before. This is my first attempt at having a go at it, so I seek your patience very much. The reason why I'm actually doing this video is because I've actually posted these photos last week. Shout out to you if you're actually coming from Instagram. Thank you so much for even paying attention to my content and being curious enough to even want to actually find out my Lightroom workflow. So this is actually me just sharing with you, what usually goes behind the scenes in my editing. So I'm by no means an expert. I'm just sharing what I usually do. The other thing is that usually my editing involves more than just Lightroom itself. It's a combination of Lightroom and Photoshop. But this is actually my first video and I don't know how do I combine both screen recording for Lightroom, jumping between Lightroom and Photoshop, and making the whole video a digestible content on this YouTube platform. So while I'm still figuring it out, this is actually more of a simplified workflow in Lightroom only. Before I actually get into editing these two photos, I may just share. Usually when I look at a photo that I'm about to edit, I won't say that 100% of the time I have a set direction in the sense that, oh, I want the photo to end up looking this way, and I'm actually doing every single thing to achieve exactly what I visualize in my mind. It seldom happens, okay, for me at least. I do not know about others. So I do have a certain initial visualization of how I would like the image to turn out, and I would do as much as possible using the different tools and Lightroom bring out that expression, right, of how I actually feel, how I visualize. But as I go on in my workflow later on that I'm actually about to share, I rarely achieve what I initially visualize. I will go along that journey of editing, and because inspiration will tend to evolve as I actually edit, and that would translate into a very different final image. Okay, so enough of me talking, let's get to the edit. So I've already got my Lightroom started. This is actually the first image that I'm actually going to go through in terms of the edit. Okay, so this was actually taken the beginning of 2019, right? January. Seems like a while back already with all the current things happening. So this was in Kyoto. It's a cafe called Kyoto School Bus Cafe. Very, very nice vibes. Totally miss that place. If you guys ever go there, you can also search up Kyoto School Bus Coffee Stops. Yeah, I think that's what it's called. Hop in there for a croissant and some good old Japanese hand drip coffee. I'm sure you'll love it. Usually what I like to have is, put on some chill hot music in my ears and then, just to get into the mood and edit. So like what I mentioned, usually when I look at a photo itself, I would try to, think to myself how I actually feel about this photo. Either I try to think back, how I felt back then when I was in this cafe. I remember it was very chill, very quiet, some chatter at the background. I try to bring out that chill vibe. Or I look at this photo, I try to decide what's the main subject and what I want to actually bring out from this photo. So for this example, my subject would actually be the barista himself. He's actually brewing coffee at the back of the counter. Whatever I'm going to be doing, all the tools I'm going to be using in Lightroom, I will do my best to bring him out, as the main subject of this photo. Because as you can see, right off the bat, the photo is actually quite dark. First thing first, because I shoot all my photos in RAW and specifically with Fujifilm X-H1, so I will usually toggle through the profiles. And the profile that I usually use most would actually be the Camera Classic Pro. Alright, so when I click that, as you can see, the reason why I actually like it is because it's got more muted colors, right? Then I would actually go into my tone curve. That's what I usually go first. And I do actually have a bit of a preset, but I'll actually, even though it's a preset, I'm not just gonna leave it at that. I'll actually explain why I actually do certain things. So as you can see, I got a couple of others, but the one I usually go for is, it's this Khyezr one. I didn't have a good name for it, so yeah. It's got a lot of control points, but essentially what you can actually see here is a slight S-curve. I know a lot of people tend to think that, as long as I actually create some sort of an S-curve, then I'll be fine. Yes, you actually be creating contrast from that, but you kind of have to know what you're exactly doing. So think of each point, right? As you actually create a certain point, when you actually bring them down, right, you're actually darkening that tonal area. Okay, if you actually increase it, you're actually increasing the brightness of that tonal area. So what I've actually done here is that, as you can see, most of my highlights to the right hand side of this tone curve are lifted, and about 40% of towards the left in my shadows are actually lowered, with the exception of the tail end right here on the most left hand side, which I actually lift up a little bit because I want to actually lighten that shadows and give it a bit of that faded effect, as most of you all would already know. And then recently I like to immediately get a feel of the crop, and because recently I like the feel of cinematic crop, I tend to go for the 2.39 times 1, so that I actually immediately get to see that, hey, what kind of vibe am I actually getting, So most of the things that I'm actually doing, right, is to get myself in that vibe as I actually go through the edit. Okay, so as I can see now, I'm actually looking at this photo. It seems like right now the focus is actually more towards the right hand side of the photo, rather than the left, rather than the subject himself. So I will just try to bring out a bit of the shadows, bring down the highlights a little bit. The vibe right now looks a little bit heavy on the orange. The area that I tend to pay attention to, which I feel is actually pretty underrated, it's actually the temperature slider as well as the tint. Because as you can see in this photo, the environment, it's very warm, very little cool tones. So I'll try to balance it out so that, everything just looks pleasant to the eye. So I'll just draw a little bit. As you can see, it's actually a bit cooler right now. It feels a bit more balanced. And I like greenish tones because it's like the vibe, right? I'll try that a little bit. Just into the greens. See how it looks like. Bring out the vibrance a little bit. Yeah. So immediately after this, I will actually pretty much skip the rest, go all the way to the bottom, which is camera calibration. I like to do a lot of my colors balancing in this part of the Lightroom. Okay. I think a lot of people like to do the orange and teal colors. You can immediately do that if you want to, but I don't really like that. Because it's a bit too in your face. I still like orange and teal, don't get me wrong, but a bit of a muted version, right? So for the blue primary, I will still start with the blue primary. So going to the left means that, the blues, as you can see at the bottom right of the image, it will start to become teal, and then the rest of it will become a bit more of a reddish orange. So that's a bit too extreme. I'll try to dial down to about -8 to -10. That's usually my sweet spot. Saturation will actually bring out the colors. I tend to do it here more than the saturation slider itself at the top. Reason being, well, I don't know if it's true or not, but it just feels a bit more natural to control your saturation through the primary channels. Green, I will tend to go a bit to the left as well, -10. Red, I like to go to -10 as well. As you can see, the comparison is that if you go too much to the extreme, you become purple. It looks like an alien. And then green, if you go too left, then everything will just look yellow. Again, the idea is to make the entire photo have that very chill vibe, like how I actually imagined it to be when I was back there in the cafe. Shadows, if I actually pull it towards the green, I will actually tend to have a bit more greens in my shadows. Here is a bit more forgiving because, as you can see, when I go to the max, right, it still looks okay. So I tend to maybe hit about -20, -19 or -18 around there usually. So from there, if I were to toggle this on and off, you see that, originally the shadows are actually a bit warmer. Now it's a bit more greenish tones, that kind of vibe. And then after that, before I actually do, all the HSL and things like that, I will get into that later on. What I would like to actually do now is, I think, again, this tool is very underrated because very seldom people actually pay attention to this particular tool before they actually move on to the HSL. And that is the graduated filter. So again, whatever tools that I use in Lightroom, the idea is to emphasize parts of the image that I want to be emphasized, so mainly around my subject. And graduated filter is a very good way to actually do this, because right now, as you can see in the bottom right image, is actually very well emphasized. So I'm just going to hold shift, pull it up. So this is a graduated filter. As you can see, if I were to click on the show selected mask overlay, this means that whatever I'm going to be controlling later on, whether it's going to be the contrast, highlights, shadows, what area would it actually affect? So highlighted the red most, it's going to be very much affected by the sliders. and then it actually feathers out to the rest of the image, which means that it's less affected. Okay, so I'm just gonna split rather. The idea to actually split up the graduated filter, right, is so that the transition of the adjustments actually becomes a bit more, natural looking. So now I'm just gonna turn down the highlights. As you can see, if I were to make it very extreme, right, you can see the effect is gonna be too extreme. Just gonna tone it down a little bit to actually, as you can see, the highlights, now the brightness of the lower right of the image actually becomes lesser. And I'm going to bring down the shadows as well. When I bring down the shadows, it's going to darken that part, right? This looks quite good. So now the lower right is actually less emphasized. I'm going to go to the top left right now, pull out another graduated filter. So you keep it away from the top of the barista's head. Remove the mask overlay. Turn down the shadows, turn down the highlights. So as you can see right now, it still affects the top of his head, right? And I don't want that. So what I'm gonna do is that with the same graduated filter selected, click on the brush right here. So when you hold down the option key, you will see that the brush will change to a minus, like negative brush, right? What that means is that, so the plus will actually, when you actually paint it, sorry about that. Sorry about my explanation. So with the plus brush, wherever you paint, it's going to be you're gonna be painting the red mask over it, right? Where you're gonna have the effect being applied to that area. If I have a whole minus brush, if I apply minus brush and I actually paint over it, I'm actually gonna be removing the applied area. So I'm just gonna paint around his face because I don't want that darkening of the shadows to be around him, right? So you can see it doesn't affect him that much. After that, I'm gonna bring him out to the foreground to emphasize him. I will use a radial filter for this. So just draw a circle around him. This is again where he's going to be affected. So then I'm just going to pull out the highlights first, see how that affects him. Pull out the shadows. Pull out a bit of exposure. I do that sometimes too. So it is up to you, right? You just gotta eyeball it if it's too much or acceptable. Now I'll go back to the radial filter. Click on the brush again because I don't want the effect, the exposure, the highlights, all this to actually affect the surrounding too much as well. So I'll just paint it out. So I kind of like this. Let's go back to it again and see how we can actually perfect this. It's a good time to go to the khyezr now. Bring down the reds a little bit, bring out the oranges and the luminance, because skin colors is orange, right? So oranges, as you can see, I'm actually watching the skin tones here. Actually watching the skin tones over here, and feel that minus 17. This will be too saturated, right? It looks like the life is actually being sucked out of him. So about minus 16 is good. In my opinion, I still feel that he is there's still a lot of emphasis that can actually be done on the main subject. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the graduated filter, right? One thing I will try will actually bring the clarity slider down so that, it's not too contrasty, and see if that makes it, it actually does help a little bit. Bring down the contrast down as well, so that it appears flatter to the eye. So shadows, for the split toning sliders, you will be able to colorize the shadows and the highlights. Tip is to always bring the saturation up first, and I like greenish tones in my shadows, actually depending, but for this image I like it green. So once I actually down the green that I like, usually at 160, that's the hue number, I will dial it back down and keep it around 9 or 10. And then for highlights, I like it orangey, but not too intense. I like hue number 30. That's what I like. And I will dial back down again around -9. Sorry, not -9, 8, 9. That's what I mean. So actually, as you can see, it's very different from what I even eventually posted on Instagram, but I guess I just have a different feel for this image today. So that's what I mean by sometimes your inspirations actually evolve through the edits, and there's no set one, and I don't want to actually do this tutorial where I kind of work it backwards, where I tell you that, hey, this is what I did, and doing this tutorial I will be able to bring back that same feel as well. But the truth is that I can never get that feel again, right? I do, of course, if I were to actually copy and paste, I'll be able to do that and I'll be able to break it down, right? The first one, basically, I have less green tones, but today, for some reason, I just have the mood for greenish tones, and yeah, just feel that way. So yeah, let me know if you like this new version of that. Yeah, so let's just go through the rest of the sliders. For the sharpening, caution, always use masking, because especially right now, if you look at the top right, this photo was actually shot on ISO 800. Not bad for Fuji cameras, but as you actually edit and pull out the shadows and things, you start to get a bit of grain, and you don't want to apply your sharpening throughout the entire image. So always hold Option and pull out the masking slider. So the reason why I do this is that all the areas that's highlighted in white will actually be sharpened. All those that's in black will not be sharpened, will be left untouched. So, you don't want the entire image to be sharpened, right? So that's why I actually pull it towards the right and just focus on the edges. So my eye will always go to the subject, or the areas that I want to be sharpened, make sure that, and balance it out with the areas that I don't want to be sharpened. So as you can see, the walls and everything, the racks, surfaces are all in blacks, and I think it's about 89 and 8700. I'll leave it as that. Now I just feel that it's a bit dark, and I actually want to bring it up a little bit more through the exposure. So exposure, I always do it last, right? When I have all the rest actually being dialed down. So in this one, I can go darker. Highlights, I can go darker. So this is the final image that I've edited today. I like the vibe which could be back there in the cafe. Again, soon, hopefully next year maybe. Okay, so let's go to the next image. So the next image is this shot of my wife, Fiona. Let's just look at the finished image first. This is how the finished image looks like. This is the base image itself. Usually I would apply, pretty much of the same feel or the chill vibes to most of my images. And I have presets to actually do that. Because as I edit images, if I feel that, hey, certain images look good a certain way, and I feel that very frequently I go towards that style, I usually save them as presets. So whatever you actually see here are like my presets over the years that I've actually edited. And most of them are named after the places, particular shot that I edit. But for example, you see that Akihabara, I probably edited that, a photo of Akihabara at night, and that's how I actually named that. So for this shot, I would like to use Arakura Sunny Spring. Arakura is the Arakura Sengen Shrine near Fujisan. This is the photo of it. Right out the bat, as you can see in the color profiles, again, is the classic chrome. Most of the settings here, even the tone curve is much the same. The first image that he edited. I want to bring our attention more towards the khyezr as well as the calibration, because I think that's probably where the differences come in. Calibration, not much of a difference, it's pretty much about the same, because see the setting here of a -8 in blue primary, -10 in greens, and in red primary as well as minus shadows, right? This actually gives me a bit of a orange and teal look, but muted, as well as greenish tones to it, to like that. That's pretty much what I've always been doing. HSL, start with hues. So as you can see, my top 3 sliders I actually emphasize more towards oranges. So my reds become a bit more of the red orange. The yellow become more of the orange, yellow, orange, goes more towards more intense, right? On more of the oranges rather than other colors. In greens, I even move it to yellows as well. And of course, I actually move a bit of the blues towards the aqua. Saturation, I feel that can bring out some of the yellows back. Just still keep it muted. Oranges, I'm pretty happy with it. Red as well. Luminance, the yellows on 100 is a bit too much. Just the cut as far as the book background. I'll move it to about 45, 46. Good. The reason why is that if I keep it at 100, then my eye will actually go to the cut. I feel like. And towards the book. So I don't want that. I want to keep, again, my emphasis. The idea is to emphasize the main subject. So right now, it will be the model, the subject. Fiona herself. About 48, 49, that would be great. And the rest, I won't touch it just yet. I would still leave it as the preset. Now we'll just try to take a look at temperature slider, right? And I feel that it's oranges, but I'm just very curious what if I actually move this slider towards the blues. I will just to the blues. It's a bit cooler. You can see it's a bit too much. I'll bring it back to maybe a 2004 because I feel that this is a good balance of cool tones, hands around the shadows and the lower mid tones, and then the rest of the image is still warm. Yes. Still warm, but just like that. Right. So next, again, I'm bringing out the graduated filter again because I feel it's really underrated. Most people would just edit the colors, stop right there, and then maybe just bring out the brightness so that you can actually edit it for Instagram. But I like to go to the graduated filter and go in there and really emphasize the subject, right? Because the truth is that you can actually use more than just one graduated filter. So explore with it, go crazy with it. Sorry, of course, not too crazy with it, but experiment a little bit, right? So that you can actually create very interesting edits from there as well. So I'm going to bring on the graduated filter, and what I want to do right off the bat is so I want to mute the lower right corner, and when I say mute, I feel that probably, still a bit more exposed than I like it to be. So what I want to do is I want to bring down the shadows plus the highlights to take off the emphasis on the lower right edge, right? Exposure probably a bit too much. As you can see, it's a bit unnatural, so I'll not touch the exposure. But exposure really brings down the brightness of the shadows, highlights, whites, as well as blacks all together. So I just want to touch on the shadows and the highlights only. I'll just leave it as that first. I'll create another graduated filter from the top left. Again, I'll turn on the show selected mask overlay because I want to see how it's going to affect the image. I don't want it to affect subject, so I will just keep it. So, like the mask overlay, bring down the blacks for this one. Right. So next thing I want to do is emphasize a bit more of the subject. So I just keep it like that, right? As subject on the radio filter. I don't want to go too crazy with this. Mask. Picture. Now we'll bring up the overall exposure. So it's a bit too dark. Good. Now we'll go back again into the graduated filter. Just do that. A bit more. Now we'll go back to the graduated filters again. Now I'll bring down the clarity. Soften those parts. I feel like this more than my original edit. Let me know which version you like. Yeah, so that's all for my 2 Lightroom edits for those images that you guys requested. I will try to do more of such Lightroom tutorials. Again, I hope that, I'm again by no means of an expert, just sharing my workflow and my thoughts and my experiences in my edits. And if you find them useful, do let me know in the comments. What do you think about the edits? What other kind of photos you want to see me edit? Leave it a like. Yeah, share this video. Thank you so much. I will see you guys in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, guys. You guys are heroes. Alright. Bye.